Hello. So, randomly, throughout at one point in the day, I saw this, and I remembered that I had this. So I'm going to be reviewing this. This has 7 films on it, and it includes all the films besides the newest one, which I believe came out in 2018 on the Sci-Fi Channel. I don't have cable, so I didn't see it when it came out, and I don't have a way of seeing it right now, so I haven't seen it, and thus I will not be reviewing it here. I'm just going to be reviewing the first 7 films. So this is going to be kind of a different video. I'll be reviewing all 7 films right now in this video, but it won't be a 10 to 12 minute long video deep dive into each one of these movies. I'm probably going to spend 3 to 5 minutes on each movie, or maybe even less. So let's jump right into this. First of all, we have Leprechaun, the original. Released in 1993. This movie is well, it's a movie. The characters aren't too interesting. You have maybe 1 or 2 characters that are pretty good and well portrayed. The others are mostly forgettable. You get Jennifer Aniston in here before Friends, which is cool to see, I guess. Leprechaun is less jokey and less comedic in this movie. This movie kind of goes like how the Nightmare on Elm Street movies went, where the first movie was more horror-oriented, less comedic, and then the films following gradually became more and more comedic and less horror-oriented. This is kind of how this goes, even though it starts off more comedic than those movies did. But it's still more horror-oriented than the rest of these are, excluding one, which we'll get to. Leprechaun is funny, the jokes he does tell in here. And I do feel like this movie does suffer from being less comedic than the others, where Nightmare on Elm Street, I think, suffered for becoming more comedic over time. I think this franchise benefited for becoming more comedic. Leprechaun, played by Warwick Davis, is amazing. He's amazing throughout all these films, besides one, because it's not played by him. He's funny, and scary at times, especially in this movie, in only this movie, pretty much. You got some nice kills in here, with the pogo kill. Actually, that's pretty much the only good kill in here. The rest are kind of bad. The movie is a pretty middle-of-the-road movie. It's probably the baseline for a good Leprechaun movie. Like in a ranking, anything below it would be bad, and anything above it would be good. It's the midpoint of this franchise, I'd say. There's plenty of films here that are better than it, and there's plenty of them that are worse than it. You get the Leprechaun being instantly becoming iconic because of this film, and that's mostly thanks to Warwick Davis, which plays him. But there's not much else to say about this movie. Yeah. So, moving on to Leprechaun 2. This movie is astoundingly boring. Just so boring. The characters are insufferable. The rules that they establish in this movie don't make sense in correlation to the rest of the movies. Leprechaun is the only saving grace of this movie. He's good in it. He's funny. All the other characters suck. Flat out, just suck. The kills are nice. You get leprechaun pulling a pot of gold out of someone's stomach, which is amazing. You get leprechaun riding like a go-kart type thing, which is cool. There's a weird like plot in the story where leprechaun is like trying to marry the one of the lead characters, which is weird and gross to see. Um, the movie moves at a snail's pace, and it's just a boring movie. I really don't recommend watching it. It might be the worst movie here, besides one which we'll get into later. I don't have much else to say about it. Leprechaun 3. We're on Leprechaun 3 now, and this movie is pretty good. Actually, I would say this movie is good and one of the best movies in the franchise. It's fun. It's a lot funnier than the last two movies. Um, it's a lot more comedic than the last two, especially more comedic than the first. And to its benefit, the jokes here are funny, and the kills are very good in this one. A big step up from the last two. You got a girl exploding, a dude getting cut in half, a guy getting electrocuted to death by a sex bot or something like that. You get some wacky stuff in here, like the main character turning in to a leprechaun, and you get some funny jokes with that, like since Leprechaun's Irish, she starts to eat potatoes and stuff. So you get some funny stuff with that. But the downsides to this movie are, well, it's really the downsides to most of these movies. The characters just aren't interesting. Our main two characters aren't interesting. They kind of have the same problems as the main two characters from the last movie. But the main dude is turning into a leprechaun, which makes it a little more interesting. In this movie, you do get the only rule to leprechaun that will really ever stay consistent, which is the amulet that if he goes on his head, he turns to stone. Overall, a good movie. Really is. It's set in Vegas, which is a good setting, and I think it does Vegas better than Friday the 13th Part 8 did New York. Because in Friday the 13th Part 8, you have that amazing scene of Jason in Manhattan in Times Square. But that's really the only thing you get in that movie of it being New York. This movie, you get a lot of Vegas. You get the casinos, you get the billboards, the lights, the pawn shop. Like, you get the Vegas feel in this movie. And it's cool to see Leprechaun running around Vegas doing shenanigans. So yeah, good movie all around. Do recommend. I especially recommend watching this movie and all of these movies with a friend. That's what I did in my first viewing of these movies. Highly, highly recommend that. Perfect movies for a friend to watch with a friend. Next, we have Leprechaun 4 in Space. This movie is the polar opposite of the second movie, where it is incredibly, incredibly entertaining. Unlike the second movie, which was incredibly, incredibly boring. Leprechaun 4 in Space is in space, which is funny because it has that horror trope sort of sending horror icons to space. They did it with Leprechaun, they did it with Hellraiser, and they did it with Friday the 13th. So it's funny to see that. And the funny things that come with it. You get nice practical effects in here. There's a dude that turns into a spider type thing, and that actually looks way better than you think it would in this movie. But the special effects, the CG in this movie is horrible. especially at the end. Leprechaun becoming like giant. It looks terrible, but the practical effects do look amazing. Leprechaun is funny as always. Um, you get better characters than the last two movies, I'd say, but still not very good characters. It kind of has the same problem as Aliens, with it's just Marines. So it's generic soldier people with some standouts. Um, you get some funny scenes with them, there's one of them's a robot, and dress they dress up and dance. It's weird, but it's funny. You get some funny kills in here, and you get some homages to Star Wars, with especially in the beginning. You have a certain scene with a lightsaber. It's not really a lightsaber, but if you see the movie, you know what I mean. Um, you have Leprechaun coming out, like like coming out of a guy's nether regions, which is hilarious. The kills in here are great. You get a dude getting his head flattened like a pancake. Someone becomes a spider. The aforementioned leprechaun growing out of someone's um, pantaloons, you could say. Um, yeah, good movie overall. Not as good as the third one, I'd say, but we'll get to. I'm gonna rank these movies at the end. Leprechaun in the Hood. This movie is very, very interesting. Okay. This movie, I would say, other than the last movie on this list, is the black sheep of this franchise. Um, it's very different to the other movies in one major way, and that is the characters. The characters in this movie are genuinely good, with good writing and good acting and good character development. This is probably the only Leprechaun movie where you're not rooting for the leprechaun. You're rooting for the main characters. Because I'd argue in the other movies, you're not really rooting for the main characters. You're rooting for Leprechaun. You kind of want Leprechaun to win and kill these people. You're rooting for him, not the characters. In this movie, I would say it's different. You're rooting for the characters, because this is one of the only instances in this franchise of there being genuinely good characters that you like and root for. The three characters in this movie, their names are Stray Bullet, Postmaster P, and Butch. And these characters bounce off of each other very well, and you see a very clear and good bromance between these three characters. You can tell that they're really good friends and care for each other. And when some of them do die, it is genuinely very sad to see, and the reactions from the other characters to their death is sad to see. And it actually makes you feel for these characters. The leprechaun in here is also very funny and acted well, of course. Uh, you get Ice-T in this movie, who surprisingly does a good performance, and is in the movie for the majority of the time. Not the majority, but a lot of the time, which you wouldn't think for such a celebrity, in such a small movie. But it's very nice to see him, and he's very good in this movie. But there is one downside to this movie. It's not a huge one or anything, but it's there, and it's the production value. The production value of this movie is atrocious. You can see the roof of sets into the next set, which is horrible. You don't want that in your movie, but I can forgive it for just how good the characters are in this movie. You can tell the budget is just not there. But the best thing about this movie, obviously, is the end credits musical scene with Leprechaun. That's where you get the infamous Leprechaun in the Hood song. Amazing. Um, yeah, just an all around good. I would say this is actually a very good, not very good, it's not a masterpiece, but a good movie, especially for a Leprechaun movie. It is very good. Um, but I cannot say the same thing for Leprechaun Back to the Hood. This movie is not good. Does not have good characters. This movie is bad. Um, a lot of it doesn't make sense. A lot of the characters are bad. It's just not a good movie. This is probably the movie I'm going to have the least to say about. There's just not a lot to say about it. I mean, it tries to capture the magic that you got with Leprechaun in the Hood, and it just doesn't. It's nowhere near as good. Leprechaun is defeated in a stupid way. The characters act in a stupid way. The story plays out in a stupid way. It's a stupid movie. I would say one of the only good things about this movie is the beginning. There's a super cool animation in the beginning of this movie, and I do recommend just watching a clip of that animation and skipping the movie if you're watching through all of these, because it's not good. It's not super boring like the second movie, but it's not very entertaining either. It's just, I mean, watch it if you want to. If you want to watch all these movies, first of all, if you're gonna do that, you recommend getting this disc. It just makes it very easy to watch these. But watch it if you want to. And it's not very good. I don't like it very much. If you like it, good for you. I'm glad you found something I didn't. But for me, this is probably one of my least favorite ones here, other than 2. And then finally, we get to Leprechaun Origins. This movie is atrocious. This is easily the worst Leprechaun movie. Why is that? It's not a Leprechaun movie. It's straight up not. The Leprechaun in it isn't played by Warwick Davis. He doesn't talk. He's not funny. He doesn't act like a leprechaun. He doesn't look like a leprechaun. If you've ever played the game Until Dawn, and you know the Wendigos in that game, that's what he looks like in this movie. It looks bad. He like roars and like snarls at the and you get first person POVs of him with like predator vision. It's bad. The characters aren't good. Characters aren't very well acted. They have no personality. You don't care about them. And in this movie, doesn't even have the saving grace of rooting for the leprechaun like the other ones do. You don't root for the characters or the leprechaun. You're just not rooting for anybody. You just want it to end. You really just want the movie to end because it's bad. This is a bad movie. It's terrible. It's made by WWE studio. That as soon as you see that, you know the movie isn't going to be good. It's made by WWE. I mean, I'm sorry for getting so mad at this movie, but it's bad. Don't watch it. Even if you want to watch all these movies, don't watch Leprechaun Origins. It is terrible. Just save yourself the time waste. Just don't waste your time on this movie. Really don't. Do not watch the movie. But now that we're done with that, I'm not going to talk about that movie anymore because it is atrocious. I don't like it. Now let's get a ranking going here. my ranking in these movies, worst to best, probably goes Leprechaun Origins, Leprechaun 2, Leprechaun Back to the Hood, Leprechaun the Original, Leprechaun 4 in Space, Leprechaun 3, Leprechaun in the Hood. That is my ranking worst to best of these movies. You don't have to agree with me. You don't have to even care, but that is my ranking. You can make your own. If you have your own ranking and you're watching this video, put it in the comments. I'll look. And if I see where you're coming from, I'll reply to that comment and be like, hey, yeah, I see that. I'm glad you got enjoyment out of the movie I didn't. But that is my ranking, and those are my reviews. A little bit of a different type video. I might do more of these. Who knows? I am currently watching all of the Hellraiser movies and all the Nightmare on Elm Street movies. I'm watching through all of those right now. So I'm going to make videos on those. I'm not quite sure. But that is it. A longer video. This is probably going to clock in around 20 minutes or so. So, see y'all in the next one. Be good people.